Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Talk Tuesday for January 13th. I'm Kari Sullivan Custer with the State Department of Education. It's my pleasure to be here today. Our usual moderator, Caroline Calhoun, is not able to join us today, and so we miss her. And so let's get started. Next slide, please. So in the chat, if you could please introduce yourself and say hello. What is your role? We're hoping to learn from everyone, so feel free to engage in the chat or to raise your hand and ask questions. We want to thank our partners at Advance, our team here, Dahlia, Ian, and Liz Rade will be with us today as well. And our presenters, Maria Federick, and we have Patrice Mer and Dina back to give us an update on her challenge at her, I think it was the middle school, right, Patrice? So we're excited to hear that. So let's keep going. Next slide, please. So we're every Talk Tuesday, we want to let you know what's new and what's come out, not only from CSDE, but in the world of attendance and engagement. And this is really important. This is the CSDE English Learner and Multilingual Learner Framework that was released through the State Board of Ed, I believe in December. And so this has lots of great information on shared responsibility and assets-oriented lens to serving Ls and multilinguals. So this is very important in our work in attendance and making sure that we are being culturally responsive and encourage everyone to take a look at that. Next slide, please. The Student Support Series, the next session is January 15th, and then there's February 19th, and the registration is open for those sessions. And the link is here in the slides. You can access the slides in the chat and go ahead and register. It's a fantastic community of practice that serves all folks working on mental and behavioral health. Next slide, please. So we've been sharing this because it's that time of year, right, where students are just getting sick, adults are getting sick. Our Talk Tuesday host is getting sick. So our School is Better With You campaign, it has this great flyer, When is Sick Too Sick for School? It's in English and Spanish. And so we encourage you to download that and to use that for messaging with families about when to stay home. We don't want students to come to school sick or staff, but we want them to know when should they come back, because we don't want them dragging it out and accumulating too many days of absence. And more on that in a minute. Next slide, please. So the Marshall Memo for December 8th is what can we do for languishing teens? And it addresses issues regarding how many teams are drifting into what they say passivity, isolation, and screens, especially during those after school hours, and how to address those issues and find some workaround for teens. Really interesting article. I highly encourage you to take note of it, and the link will be here for you as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have a celebration and a spotlight on Norwich Public Schools. Patrice, the coordinator of strategic initiatives, and Shannon Santini, their attendance and family engagement corner, are going to give us an update on their video they shared last month. If you were here, you remember. I think I'll turn it over to Patrice to remind us about the challenge and the outcome.
Yes, thank you, Kari. And thank you for welcoming us again on another Talk Tuesday. We love these sessions. So the challenge was won by the students. Our attendance and family engagement coordinator, with the help of staff and students across the building, put together a challenge video where if the students hit a certain percentage of positive daily attendance, the assistant principal, Clay Hardman, was to shave his head. Shannon does all the running of numbers to think about to calculate on behalf of the school. She reached out to me And maybe the positive daily attendance was off by a couple tenths of a percentage. And she was looking to me for like but do we still do it? And I said, absolutely, because even when you're a classroom teacher and a student works hard and gets a 89.8% on something, you take everything into consideration, not just the numbers. So one of the goals of Teachers Memorial and Norwich is that we focus on our numbers, but we also focus on work towards numbers and positive outcomes and relationship building. So they did shave Clay's head in the cafeteria. The SRO was involved with the clippers and everything. So even though we have school resource officers on site, they work to building positive relationships with kids, which is what it's all about. I met with Principal Hardman the other day about athletics, and it took me a second. It was the first time I had seen him since his head had been shaved, and I went, "Oh, actually, you wear that very well." He goes, "Yeah, my wife actually really likes it." So everybody had a positive experience. They posted a video on our Parent Square and our Facebook page at the district level of Principal Hardman getting his head shaved and all the kids in the cafeteria. So dedication from Shannon Santini at Teachers Memorial. She's already got the next attendance challenge going up there. We review our numbers monthly, and teachers continues to be 8% better than it was at this time last year, even with all the illness running around. That's about 60 kids difference from last year to this year. So she does a wonderful job cheerleading all things attendance and relationship over there.
Thank you so much, Patrice. I saw Shannon Santini. I think she's here. And so I just want to give a shout out to Shannon. Great work. Like, let's bring the fun back into school. Let's make it fun and meaningful and it paid off. And so there's some wonderful things happening at Teachers Memorial, and they're seeing the impact with their chronic absence rates being 8 percentage points lower than last year. Next slide, please. So this is where I would usually come on and the report from the state. And I just want to do sort of my data drop and say attendance momentum continues. Now, I only have November data, and I'll talk about December in just a minute. But October and November, this is going in the commissioner's going to put this in her newsletter that's going out to schools, or if it didn't, it was going out last night. October and November show strong year-over-year improvements statewide. We had a fantastic start to the school year. October chronic absence was almost 3 points lower than it was last October, down to 13.3% from 16.1. Best October on record. And then November chronic absence, although it ticked up a little, it was 4 percentage points lower than last November, lowest November since monthly tracking has begun. And so very strong start to the school year. We're seeing improvement in every major student group. And many, many of our districts are seeing improvements as well, leading to this outcome. And so I want to thank all of you for your dedication and diligence and your attendance teams and your review of data and bringing fun back into school. It's really important. And so next slide, please. So I want to put a little seasonal context with all the good news, right? That was, the good news is flu season is activity arrived early this year than last year. Last year was more February. So districts are seeing a seasonal impact on their December data for attendance. And I've heard it. It was the 2 weeks before Christmas was just so hard. And so this is a predictable winter cycle, and it reinforces the prevention strategies and continued engagement with families to sustain this progress through the colder weather. I don't want folks to get terribly discouraged because their December data went up, because there's a reason for that. Right? And we see it every year. So I love this idea of a winter cycle. Like, this is where we are, but we want to remind students and families when to come back. Like, don't drag it out, come right back, when to stay home. And that those other absences are really add up even more if you've had the flu and you've missed 5 days of school because of the flu or more. And so just want to put the seasonal context on that. If anybody has anything they want to share or any questions they want to ask. Next slide, please. And so for my FAQ this week, we're going to say, was respiratory illness especially high in December, and how this is a slide from the Department of Public Health that has a dashboard that has live data that shows week to week, week over week, influenza, COVID. I have selected the influenza here, right? And the cases, but you can pick COVID, you can pick RSV. You can talk about hospitalizations and deaths, but look at where we went in December. And so that's the story behind the data, along with maybe some winter weather days, the icy mornings with delayed start, those can be low attendance days. We also had a lot of the holidays and vacations. So keep up the good work, go strong. We haven't seen the December data yet, probably come out next week, but I'll bet it's still going to be better than last year. Next slide, please. So just wanted to, on behalf of the Department of Public Health and Chloe Bobrowski, our health education manager, just wanted to share that, winter 2026, CDC reports very high respiratory virus illness. Like I heard 3 times higher than usual. Norovirus is increasing statewide and typically peaks in midwinter. And experts anticipate continued spread in the coming weeks. So we're not over and done with all this yet. It's still here. So we need to be sending those messages when sick is too sick to come to school, and when to come back to school. Next slide, please. Why schools should be alert. There's rising cases noted by hospitals and surveillance systems. I've heard about school staff that have been very, very sick. Wastewater monitoring shows increasing norovirus. And they had an example of Stanford here. Wastewater data is a strong indicator of community spread since many cases go unreported. And so the current surge may be linked to this norovirus variant G1117, which is maybe more transmissible. And so we want to make sure kids are washing their hands with hot water and soap. Sometimes the norovirus isn't, let me say that a different way. Your hand sanitizer is not always as effective with norovirus. So washing hands is very important. Next slide, please. So the mitigation works. Get vaccinated, stay home when sick. Here it is. I was ahead of myself. I've looked at these slides. Wash hands with soap and water and clean and disinfect using bleach-based cleaners. I heard a story on the news about a school where they had classrooms that were particularly hit hard by norovirus, and that the school nurse was working with the school to make sure those particular classrooms were cleaned especially well. So where the pockets of illness is in your school, in the classrooms, in your district. Next slide, please. And then here's the CSDE newsletter, what the commissioner had said. I'm not going to read this to you, but she talked about how well we did in November and October, and that strong attendance is foundational to academic achievement and student well-being. These early indicators show what's possible when strategic investments are paired with strong partnerships. And so she encourages everyone to, as we move through the remainder of the school year, to continued collaboration among schools, family, community organizations, state and local leaders. And this will be essential to building on this momentum and ensuring students remain supported and ready to learn. And you can sign up here. There's a link to sign up for the CSDE newsletters, which can be very interesting what's happening at the state level. Next slide, please. And the Connecticut Home Visit Hub, we have our next training is January 14th from 2 to 4. It's a 2-hour virtual training for anyone who wants to do home visits. You'll have time to do role playing. You'll learn about, the purpose of the visits, the approach, the relational positive approach. And so we encourage you to sign up and attend our next LEAP 01 training. Anybody's welcome. It's free. You don't have to be a LEAP district. You can do LEAP home visits even if you don't receive the LEAP grant. Next slide, please. And as always, here are our Connecticut resources. School is Better with You link is here for that. When is sick, too sick for school. And next slide. Great. And I don't have the bios. I'm sorry, Liz and Maria. But it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Liz Rade, the Director of Research and Innovation at Edavance, who is also on our LEAP leadership team and helps us with all of our LEAP home visit data. Not helps us, leads us, and is the wizard and magician with all of our LEAP home visit data. And then Maria Frederick, welcome. She's a library media specialist at John Reed Middle School. Is it Reed? Yeah, Reed in the Reading School District. Maria, welcome. We're really excited to hear from you both. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. I'm really so excited to be here today. As much as I love collecting numbers and data, personal interest projects are my actual passion. So I'm going to talk today about learning that feels good, personal interest projects powered by AI. And Maria is here because she is on the ground in the classrooms doing personal interest projects. So I will, Maria, do you want to say hi, who you are?
Sure. Hi, I'm Maria Frederick. Yes, this is my 9th year as the library media specialist at John Reed Middle School in Reading. And this is my 3rd year of doing the personal interest projects. We run it as a course for our 8th graders. It's a semester-long course. And I'm excited to talk about the great things the kids are doing.
All right, next slide. So here's our agenda. I'm just gonna tell you about projects. I'm gonna tell you where AI fits in. I'm probably not gonna tell too much about sample pit projects because Maria has way cooler examples. And if there's any time, we'll answer some questions. So next slide. You know about me. Most of you know me. Skip that slide. I do lots of things in AI and PIPs. Okay, so where did PIPs come from? So Skills 21 is the department in EdAdvance, which is the RESC up in the northwest corner, and we did 2 decades of project-based learning. And so kids would work in teams, which were usually class-wide teams, to solve real-world problems and come up with actual solutions. They had to have physical prototypes, working models of what they were doing. It was amazing. And we all know what happened in March of 2020. Pandemic shut everything down. Kids were wanting to finish these projects because remember at the time we thought like, oh, schools will close for 2 weeks, maybe 3, and we'll still hold this big competition in May. So the kids wanted to keep working on their projects and they were literally locked inside the school where no one was able to get them. So Matt Mervis, who's the director of Skills 21, said, well, even if kids are out for 2 or 3 weeks, they should be doing something. So how about we take our existing capstone curriculum and shrink it down to do personal interest projects, which are a little lighter in the research side, but let kids learn, solve, make, or do something they're interested in while they're stuck at home. Also, really important when we wrote that curriculum was to make sure that kids were having lots of opportunities to connect to other kids. So when we wrote the original PIP curriculum, out of the 12 activities that were there, I think 8 had built in pieces of the activity where they had to share their work with someone else, whether it was someone in their house, a peer, a teacher. So those were kind of really important to us. And we know the pandemic went on for longer, and we actually ended up, because Expo Fest was canceled, we actually ended up holding a PIP online competition and had lots of schools participate. And it was a huge success. And we were like, I think this is something. So let's build on it. So now here we are in 2025. We have tons of schools doing personal interest projects. And I've since wrote a book about it too. So it's certainly something that is getting a lot of interest. So let's keep going. So where are we in 2025? You know all this. I'll go through it quickly, but chronic absenteeism still not back to pre-pandemic levels. The the night 119K, is that their number, report that says that there are all of these students that are disengaged, leading to dropout. On the other side of things, we know that AI is changing the landscape so quickly. So we know that that bottom rung of the ladder, those entry-level positions are falling away. So kids need to upskill even before they have regular skills. They've got to shoot for higher. And then we know that there's this kind of mismatch in school of what kids want to do post high school, post school, what's going on outside in their real world versus what school looks like. And school is starting to feel irrelevant, especially when many of the traditional assignments can be done by AI and kids are jumping through hoops and playing like cat and mouse. I'm going to do my assignment with AI. You're going to try to catch me. I'm going to humanize it. You're still going to try to catch me, but you can't actually prove it. And on the other hand, we have kids that are afraid of being accused of using AI when they haven't used it. So we've got this AI thing going on. We've got student engagement issues. We've got chronic absenteeism, but PIP solves all the problems. Next slide. It's a miracle. Okay, so a PIP is, like I said, an opportunity for students to follow their passions. I usually say interests. Passions can be a scary word for a 13-year-old. Like they don't know what they're passionate about yet. They're 13. They have interests though. So they can learn, solve, make, or do something. And while they're doing it, they're mastering all of these skills that are really the skills of a portrait of a graduate. They're communicating, they're being creative, they're overcoming roadblocks. They are learning to fail, they're learning to learn. So it's all good stuff. Let's keep going. All right. So a PIP is broken into 3 phases. Discover is that first phase where they start brainstorming, they come up with a couple of project ideas, they do some pros and cons, they choose their project, and they write a proposal. The next phase is create, and I usually say like the create phase is about 60 to 70% of the time. So even though there are 3 phases, they are not 30, 30, 30. Or 33.3, 33.3, 33.3. Discover and share are shorter phases, like 10 to 15% of the time. And then create is when they are engaging in research. They're prototyping, they're practicing, they're creating, they're gathering data. Whatever it is that they're doing, they're doing. And they're getting ready for the final phase, which is share, which is when they present to the community. This is a really important part of a PIP. Maria's going to talk about it, and I always talk about it. They should authentically share their projects with someone that is more than their classroom, not just the people that have already been watching. It raises the level of work when they have to show a more authentic audience. They're like, they don't want to be embarrassed in front of their peers, but they really don't want their parents to come in and then not to be prepared, or the school principal, or just other kids that don't know them. So that final presentation is really important, and no PIP is complete until they reflect on the process and what they learn. Next slide. So I have a million project examples. Maria's going to talk a little bit more deeply, but things that we've seen kids do a lot. They love to learn sign language or other languages, whether they are learning the language their grandparents may have spoken and they don't speak. ASL is just really fun. We had a kid get a ham radio operator license. He told us that the average age of a ham radio license operator is like in their 60s, and he was 13. This was such a cool project. Lots of art, murals, art installations, lots of fundraisers, whether they are for breast cancer, other kinds of cancer, ASL, ALS, not ASL, all kinds of different fundraisers, and then also like collections, whether it's clothing drives, coat drives, hat drives, dog treat drives, food drives. Kids love to help. If your school doesn't have a little free library, you probably haven't done personal interest projects yet, because there are little free libraries all over Connecticut because of personal interest projects. Tons of kids are learning to cook, family recipes, other recipes. One of the things that we didn't expect but has really come out of PIP is the number of kids who wanted to work with grandparents. So Grandparents often had skills that didn't get passed down to parents, and kids do want to learn them. So the number of kids that have connected with a grandparent over a craft, a hobby, a skill, a cultural something has been this like side benefit that has been beautiful. We had a student build a bow and like a bow and arrow and create a safety guide for archery. So, I mean, there's kind of no limit to where these projects can go. Next slide. All right, so your big question is probably like, great, these sound awesome, Liz. When do you have time to do them? And so there are lots of different ways that schools have implemented PIPs. A personal interest project can be as short as 2 weeks. It can be as long as a full year. I think the real sweet spot is between a trimester, a quarter, trimester, or half a year. So whatever kind of breakdown your school has, I love it being like half a year or a trimester. A year gets really long. We'd probably call that a capstone. And working on one thing for a year is hard. Half a year, much more doable. So we do see it as an elective. I know there's some people on the call from Montville. Montville has this really neat model where it has become part of credit recovery. So you can take PIP for a half semester humanities credit or a half semester STEM credit, and your project just has to align with a certain number of standards, or the student designs how they're going to demonstrate competency in a humanities course or in a STEM course, and they get some credits from it. We have research courses and capstone courses. I know, Maria, it takes place in the library, so we have lots of middle schools doing this as during their WIN time, as an elective, during library media courses. And then for younger grades, we see it as young as 4th and 5th grade, where kids are doing personal interest projects as part of their self-contained classroom. So it's so flexible. You can kind of fit it in different places. Or the most creative way, and the way I like want to see more, is that it's part of a content-driven course. So if you go to the next slide, I think I have stuff there. Oh, I'll talk about the 4 pillars of PIP. So to hit a personal interest project, for it to be, yes, Jeannie, it is like capstone. For this to be like a project that will be successful, has to hit these 4 pillars. So the student has to be personally interested in the project. I'll tell you who has a lot of trouble doing this are kids that are high achievers, because they are so good at doing what the teacher wants. And so when they have to choose their own interest, they often want to know what the teacher thinks they should do so that they get an A. So, but we want the kid to be personally interested. If they are not interested and they choose a project because they think it looks good, it will fade. It will not be the same kind of engagement. It has to be a learning stretch. If they are not doing something they couldn't do before they started, it's going to be an easy project. And again, they're going to get bored. So when I talk about this, I often give the example of a piano player. So a girl or a boy who plays piano, a child who plays piano and is a great classical musician, and they decide they want to go learn a Chopin etude. Well, they might not know that exact piece, but we're pretty sure they're going to be able to learn it, right? They've been doing that their whole life. But if they are a classically trained piano and they want to learn how to improvise and do some jazz, that's a learning stretch. So they're taking skills that they already have and they're stretching. We see it a lot with students that have high skills as dancers, as athletes. They want to take their skills and then teach it, because they know they can master the doing it of themselves, but now they want to teach it. And that's a whole different skill, right? We know that kids that, not everyone who's good at something is a great teacher. So, and it's a very different skill set to teach. Feasibility. The project has to be like achievable and given constraints, right? So if you are a kid in capstone and you start in September and your project's going to be finished in January, planting a garden outside, not feasible, right? So like that project, Great. You want to learn how to grow plants? Let's tweak it a little bit. Maybe you're going to start seeds in a greenhouse because your school has a greenhouse. Or maybe you're going to create the plans for a garden, but you shouldn't go outside tomorrow and start planting your peppers. It's just not going to work. The same thing with like, there's just seasonal things that happen, or constraints. Um, Constraints can also be funding. The projects I listed, a lot of them are totally free. You can learn a language in ASL without any money. You can do a fundraiser without any funding. There's tons of projects that can be done for free. And many schools will put a cap on how much money a kid can spend on a project. You can spend money, but only up to $50 because we want to keep it equitable so that kid A parents who have lots of unlimited funding don't say, oh, you want to do this personal interest project and it's going to cost $1,000 for you to build a boat. Like, we don't want that kid to get to do that when somebody else is like, well, I don't have any money and I can't do that cool thing. And the last thing is the scope of the project. You want to make sure that the project is not too big. 9 times out of 10, students shoot too high. And we love that for them. We want them to aim high, but also making a goal of like, shoot for the stars, but then what will you be satisfied with at the end of your project? So I really want to code an app, but I'll be satisfied if I have a really good wireframe, or I really want to, collect 200 toys for the animal shelter, but I'll be content if I get 100, right? So helping kids define the scope. Next slide. So when we talk about this happening, it can happen in lots of different places, but I'm really pushing now. I'm getting a little eager to think about how this can fit in a content-heavy course like a science class. You can add a parameter that will then focus those projects so they connect to science. So for example, if you're doing this in a 9th grade science course, which is typically kind of just like life science, earth science, whatever, it's not biology yet. Like maybe you need to demonstrate 2 of the NGSS practices and 1 cross-cutting concept in your project. Maybe you're doing this in chemistry and your project has to show a chemical reaction. Now, a chemical reaction, that seems like we're narrowing it, but think about drinking electrolyte beverages for sports, the chemical reactions that happen in pottery, the chemical reactions that happen in your body in so many different ways, whether it's exercise or what you eat, the chemical reactions that happen in computers and microchips. Like there's a lot of different things that have chemical reactions that kids are interested in. Maybe you want to make sure that they include an experiment and data collection. Like that can immediately tie into math of at different levels. Maybe it's got to have some deep statistics. Or you start with an inquiry question. These are all ways to add a parameter so that it can fit into a mainstream course, not just an elective. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about where AI plays a role. Now, Maria is going to talk a little bit about how her students use AI. But AI is so cool because that bottom line says PIPs are second to last line, PIPs are durable assessments because AI cannot do the project, right? So a kid can have all the access to AI that they want, but ultimately the AI can't do the project. But what it can do is help a kid who says, all right, I've brainstormed these things that I'm like interested in, but I don't know what a project can be. Well, if you go to AI and say, I'm 13, I have to do a personal interest project in school, and I've got 6 weeks. Here's some things I'm interested in: Pokemon, manga, playing baseball, and whatever, even those 3 things, it may come up with a really great idea for you. Oh, why don't you create your own manga magazine about a character that plays baseball? What if you take Pokemon and create your own fan fiction, right? So it'll help them come up with ideas. Again, ideas are great, but AI can't do that project. Maria has one of my favorite quotes when she talks about pros and cons lists. Like they usually come up with like 2 or 3 pros and cons on their own, but then AI helps them come up with more. I've done this in professional learning, have had adults come up with a project idea and come up with their pros and cons, and then ask AI for pros and cons, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of this huge pro, or like, ooh, that's a great con that I didn't think of. And again, kids can be like blind to the like glaring problem with their project until the AI is like, did you think about how you live in Connecticut and there's going to be snow on the ground in January and that's not the best time to plant your garden? Um, AI has been really helpful breaking projects down into time management plans. Again, great time management plans are great, but AI can't follow them. The student has to. And then when kids hit roadblocks, we use AI as adults all the time when we hit roadblocks. So kids are doing the same thing. Um, there's also in PIP and in my book and just in general, lots of opportunities to say, put the tech away and just make a poster with your hands and markers and paint and glue and scissors. So there are plenty of opportunities for us to say, shut the computers. You're just going to do a presentation without any slides, without anything. And you're just going to talk to me for 1 minute about what your project is, not relying on slides, not relying on tech. Next slide. All right, so I'm not going to go through all the phases because I really want Maria to get a chance to talk. So let's click through these. Phase 1, there's discover activities. Keep going. That's an activity. Keep going. That's an activity. Keep going. We're just going to skip through. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, now let's hear from Maria.
All right. Hello. So on my slides here, I just kind of picked a few of the different projects that our kids have created that it's really been quite a journey. And every year we tweak it just a little bit in order to try to fit better, make it more engaging for the kids, highlight things for our community. So you'll see here we've had students that we have a project adventure course. And so this student decided they wanted to create a new game or activity that all the classes in the school could participate in. So, he did the research on it. He had to collaborate with our PE teachers, and they developed a plan. And then it's all made out of like bungee cords. So they had to do that. His dad and him were able to go up into, they had to pick a spot. That was also another part of this. They had to actually walk the school grounds to find where would be an appropriate place to set up this web. So there was a lot involved with even just that one project doing that. We've had students that have created pottery, painting, just as Liz had said, we have a lot of artistic students that have created things. I had one student who wanted to build his own go-kart. And that he had from like day one. He could not believe that he was going to be allowed as part of a school project to be able to actually work on and create a working go-kart. And he did that with his dad and even brought it in on the day that we did the presentations. I think someone had asked about worksheets, templates, packets. So definitely there is a lot of scaffolding and there are steps that go into this project. And I can kind of run through that a little bit too while we're here. So this, just as Liz had said, the kids spend a week or so just exploring what they're interested in. So they do little like 1 minute talks with each other, and then we do almost like a speed dating where they have to talk to one person about what they're interested in, and then they go to the next person and they go to the next person, and they do that kind of sharing process to just kind of think about what they might create a project around. And then the AI is incredibly helpful. When I do my reflection at the end of the year, that is the number one area that the students feel that the AI has been most helpful, is when it comes to the actual figuring out what that product is going to be at the end of the 6 to 7 weeks. They are also given a template for their project proposal. And I want to definitely talk a little bit about the SMART goals. So I do have the kids create a SMART goal very early on. And based on the students' feedback at the end, because I do ask them as part of their reflection to what was one of the most helpful elements of the whole project, and I give them their list, the SMART goal, the trailer, the logo, the final presentation, the research, and the SMART goal always comes out on top because the kids talk about that as being like kind of like their North Star. It includes, so it's all about, being specific. What is it that they're going to create? It has to be measurable. So when the kids say, I want to learn photography, okay, great. But we got to quantify that a little bit. So what is it that you're going to do? So they'll say, well, I'm going to take, and this also, Liz said they usually aim very high. I'm going to take 50 pictures, and I'm going to create so usually we have to bring them down a little bit, but they do attach a number usually to their project, whatever it might be. I'm going to cook 5 recipes, whatever. We try to definitely quantify it. So then we also take a look at about, well, is this something that is doable? Are you going to be able to complete this in 6 weeks? And again, we talk about time. We don't want it to be something so small that they could do it in a Saturday afternoon when this is a project that spans 6 weeks. But again, we also don't want it to be unmanageable, so we take that into consideration. They include the relevance, why this project is important. And then, of course, we put in the time management and make sure they know when that end date is. So when they refer back to their SMART goal throughout the whole process of the project, they have all of those elements in mind. They can see exactly when it's due. They know exactly what it is they said they wanted to create. It reminds them of why this is important to them as well. So I can't, that idea of setting goals, not just the smaller goals, like this is what I want to accomplish this week and the next week and the next week, but that overarching SMART goal of what this project is all about, we have found has been very important when the kids are creating these projects in our school. Some other I guess tips I would say as well, and I know we have a slide on kind of the things to keep in mind, is having those constant built-in check-ins with the kids, as well as opportunities for feedback. So I work in opportunities for peer review so that they have to share along the way where they are in the process of their projects. But we also have an advisory period at our school where the kids are grouped with about 10 other of their peers, and they have to do some presenting to their advisory group. It kind of takes the pressure off a little bit because these are groups of kids that they've been together with for maybe a year or more. And it's also smaller because our class sizes are like 26, 27 kids. So, to be able to have those check-ins with their teacher and with the advisory group, we have found to be helpful. Even the teachers that are the advisors, they love seeing what the kids are doing. And it gives them a connection with those students that they might not have had if it wasn't for these, what we call evidence shares that they do with their advisory groups. So we have found that to be super helpful. Gives the kids also the presentation practice that they need in order to stand up and actually talk about what they are doing. And usually these evidence shares are done without slides or anything. It really literally is, as Liz had said, standing up and having to talk about their project for a minute or two as practice. And then the ultimate goal to complete the project, to have a product to actually share, we set up these presentations with community members from our school community. I reach out. I have the first select woman of our town. She comes every year to listen to the kids' projects. I have staff from the Mark Twain Library, our local town library. They come to listen to projects. I have had someone from the Parks and Recreation Department come. We have central office staff that come. So we really try to create that authentic audience for the kids as well. For what their goal is. Your goal is to have, 8 to 10 minutes to talk about what you've done, what you've learned from it. They do a lot of their reflection during this final presentation. They create a video of their journey. So they're really showing like their start to finish, like where this project began and where it ends. And sometimes even I talk about when the project ends, but I have had students that have continued the work that they started in the class and have continued it throughout the year. So that is always really exciting to build in like what some kids are really passionate about, and they'll continue with it. They'll continue their cooking for their families, or they'll continue volunteering at the nature center, or they continue with their garden. They did all their planning and everything for their sensory garden at the first semester, and then they finished it in June and had like a whole celebration at the community center. So I can't say enough about how the kids have really embraced what it is, this opportunity, I guess, for being able to really show off what they can do. So I feel like that's you just keep talking, right?
Yeah. No, Ian, you can go forward a couple of slides. Yep, so these were some other examples from Maria's class. These were her helpful tips. You'll have examples from these. And, it just takes a little courage to get started. So this is my book, and not to be super salesy, but there are over 30 different activities in there that come with templates. If you buy the hard copy, you'll get a QR code that'll give you editable templates that you can use. And it really walks you through the entire process of doing a personal interest project, from why you want to do it through how you can structure it. There's a lot of different. I follow 3 stories throughout the book, one of a 5th grade class that does projects, one of a middle schooler, and then one from a high school class in marketing, and how the marketing teacher really focused like the aspects of the personal interest project that aligned to marketing, so that they were continuing to do this work. You can also reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. And I think it's you guys know me. I'm at Advance. We'd love to talk. Maria's school does use the Skills 21 platform. So the platform has activities built in. They do their work in the platform, and then as they're working, it builds their final portfolio that they use for their final presentations. So, Maria is always happy to talk about how she has done it in her school. I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of schools do this in so many different ways. Kids love this. Kids, when we did surveys after the pandemic and continue to do surveys, they just talk about how different it was from regular school, that they had choice in what they were doing, that I've had kids say, like, I wouldn't do math homework for fun, but I'd work on my PIP for fun. Or, like, parents have said, we surveyed parents one year, and they said, my kid actually talks about something they're doing in school again, because they're not going to tell you what they learned in American history, but they'll tell you what they're doing with their PIP. Just, it's really gratifying work. Next slide. I'm almost done, I think. Oh, If you have not had enough of my voice today and you want to hear me talk more, Chat EDU is the podcast that my co-host Matt and I release every Friday. It is all about AI in not really K-12, in all education, AI in education. We were just listed in Forbes as one of the top AI in education podcasts. So, please listen to that, follow, like, subscribe, whatever, rate, review. And I think the last slide is about the micro credential, maybe, or just other AI resources. Yeah. So if AI is something that you are interested in, want to know more about, we've got all kinds of resources there. And I'm
And
done.
I think I'll just jump in about, the AI too. It really, this class has given us a chance to kind of really highlight and showcase using AI for good, because they do, they are using it, they are at home, they are using ChatGPT, but it's just really a great opportunity for them to see AI truly as a tool that can help them with their project. But as Liz said, it can't do the project for them, so they are truly using it in a way that is really showcasing the positives, and why even as adults we use AI. We're using it to help us, whether it be to break down those activities or to give us ideas we haven't thought of before, but not to give us answers, and so that's really important.
Liz, I think we had an earlier question in the chat from Jean or Jeannie. She's asking if this is like a capstone or not.
Yeah, it is. So Jeannie, hi. New Haven, my friends. It is very similar to Capstone. So the resources, and we do actually have a Capstone platform. Capstone just tends to be a little deeper than a PIP, although it doesn't have to be. So yeah, it is what we see a lot of schools using as Capstone for juniors or seniors.
Yeah. And in our district, it's for 8th graders, it's kind of a required experience for both us here in Reading as well as in Easton. And Easton does a different model than what we do in Reading. We have it as an actual half a year course, a 1 semester course. Whereas in Easton, I will say that they weave it in. So the librarian there, she does more push-in lessons with the kids, and then they actually work on it a slightly more independently, I would say, than what we do here in Reading. But their showcasing and their presentation is the same as what we do.
Jeannie, I see your hand.
Yeah, hi, good morning. So talking about that, just to understand, so it would be individual students, or could it be like a class project or a little group project?
Yeah, so good question. I love capstone projects or personal interest projects that are pretty individual because then the kids have to take full accountability for everything. Um, but that's not to say that you can't do them in partners or small groups. They learn a different set of skills. When you have to do a project with a group of kids, now you're learning to negotiate. You're learning to capitalize on kids' skills that are, their talents, and, you can kind of hide your weaknesses. So there's a lot of different ways that you can structure it. So you could even do a full class capstone. I work with a middle school in Danbury where they do projects as a whole class, and the class comes up with a goal of the project that they're going to complete. So you can manage it in different ways. I think you just have to make sure that you build in the scaffolding for students to still be accountable. So each individual still has to write their own blog reflection, or they have to write their own explanation of their participation in it. So
I love
yeah.
that because I love when they can elaborate on their interests, because that will keep them there. That will
Yes.
keep them, wondering and excited to do something that it's in their cup of tea. It's a little cup of tea for
Yeah.
them. So yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yep. And the cool thing we often hear from teachers is like, I had no idea my student could do X because they pull on things that they do outside of school. And like, my daughter was a synchronized swimmer, and no one knew that. She was putting in 20 hours a week upside down in a pool in New Canaan when we're all the way up here in New Milford. But like, if she had an opportunity to do a PIP, she might have done something related to synchronized swimming. So when you learn about your students, like, oh, I had no idea they were interested in learning to use a ham radio or cooking or, whatever it is, it's really cool.
This is so important to engagement of students and improving their desires to be in school and to feel welcome in school, because you're letting them choose what they're interested in. And they want to keep coming back to that. And I just love this, Liz and Maria. Thank you so much. It's really
Just one
helpful.
more time, just one more thing.
Sure,
So
Jenny.
at one of our high schools, they have the culinary department has these activities that they do, and at the end of the month on the 30th, I'm gonna be one of the judges for Cupcake Wars. And, and that was a project that they did, and I don't know how many, if it's one class or if it's two classes or the whole entire school that's part of the culinary that's going to be part of it. But that's something that, takes time, and not only one day from another they do something like that. They put their mind at the beginning of the school year, those are the goals, and then throughout the whole entire year up to now, they come up with that idea. So Cupcake Wars is coming at the end of the month. It's pretty, and eating cupcakes, who doesn't like that?
You need some
I
other
want to
judges,
judge that.
Jeannie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you all very, very much. And this is important. If you feel like this isn't something that you have a control over or power over, share these slides with folks at your district. Share what you've learned, and spread the information across, your academic folks and other folks, so more can learn about this. So our next Talk Tuesday is on January 27th, 2 weeks from today, and we'll have a conversation about data integration with Dr. Aaron Dunn and the South Windsor Associate Principal Christina Brown. So we hope to see you then in 2 weeks. And we thank you all for being here. Liz and Maria, thank you. Dahlia and Ian, excellent job. We'll see you all soon.